everybody, Wannabe Reviewer here, and welcome back to the Wannabe Podcast, episode 26. Before we begin this week's podcast, I just wanted to give a quick heads up that this is going to be a very anime-centered episode, alright? I mean, from me discussing anime that came to a close this season, talking about it, giving my thoughts, that sort of thing, to quite a few anime, focused stories in the news. It's going to be a very anime-heavy episode. So, while I wish that everyone would watch every single one of my episodes, if you choose to skip this episode because you're not into anime, I get it. Not everyone's into anime. I can respect that. So I thought I would just put this at the beginning of the episode as, like a heads up. So there you go. With that being said, there's quite a lot to talk about this week. So without further ado, I guess I'll start talking about my week. So for this week, I didn't read any manga. Anyone wondering, I am still, chipping away at Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, but I didn't make that much progress. I only read maybe 5 chapters, I think. So nothing worth talking about there. When it comes to anime, though, I watched quite a few anime, and I guess the first one I want to talk about is That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. This anime was 25 episodes long, I want to say. I mean, near the end, it gets kind of weird because I think there's 23 official episodes, and then 2 of them are bonus episodes or specials or something like that. But I want to say the total, it was 25 episodes. And yeah, I mean, I talked about this anime a while ago because, usually an anime season is I want to say 12 weeks, and this one took up 2 seasons, but, all that aside, That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. For anyone who needs a quick refresher, basically it's about this, I want to say he was 37-year-old businessman. He's hanging out with a younger coworker. They're going to go have lunch, and I guess the younger coworker is going to get married, and he wanted our protagonist to meet his fiance, that sort of thing. They're celebrating, I guess you can say. And then out of nowhere, this robber comes running down the street with a knife, and the younger coworker is going to get stabbed. So our protagonist jumps in the way, takes the stabbing, ends up dying. Basically he sacrifices his life for his younger coworker. And when he comes to, he is reincarnated in a fantasy setting as a little slime ball. And I don't remember what I've said about it in the past, honestly. I probably should have checked, but, whatever. But basically, the way the show works is our protagonist is reincarnated as a slime, and the episodes basically follow his experience in this fantasy setting, and we see how he basically, raises up his own kingdom. First, he befriends some, I want to say they're little goblins, and when he first befriends them, they're all defenseless and weak, they're small, but then he helps them out, he protects them, he gives them names, and they grow big and powerful, that sort of thing. And basically that's what he does for all sorts of races around him. Every time he runs into a race, he befriends them, and he helps, train them, and he kind of adopts them into his little kingdom. And so yeah, by the end you kind of see how he builds up this little kingdom, and it's just a really fun fantasy adventure, type of story. I really enjoyed it. The one thing that I know a lot of people do complain about, they feel he's a little overpowered. And, I'll admit it is true. When he enters a fight, he's going to win because he just has an insane amount of skills and stuff. But even then, I didn't think it was a bad show. I thought it was very enjoyable. I thought it was really fun. I think that even if he is overpowered, it's kind of less about him and how he grows. It's more about how he affects everybody around him, So even if, he's going to win every fight, it's still really interesting, seeing how he helps other tribes of species of creatures, and how he helps them grow, and how they become a part of the community and stuff. So I don't know. I didn't have any problems with it. I thought it was a really fun, really entertaining series. And I know there's a second season that just got announced. So, I mean, that's really cool. And yeah, overall, I would just say that I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was really good. I would definitely recommend it. So there you go. Another anime that came to a close this season was My Roommate is a Cat. And I believe that one ran for 12 episodes. Yeah, 12 episodes. But it's a really cute anime. Basically, it's about this guy who is a writer. And when he was younger, his parents died in a bus crash because they went on a trip somewhere, got into a bus accident, and they died. And yeah, so he becomes an orphan and he becomes a writer, and he's used to just always being alone writing. I mean, ever since he was a kid, he was very introverted, and the fact that his parents are dead and he's on his own makes it even worse. And basically what like the premise of the show is, it's that this guy who's like super introverted, on the anniversary of like his parents' death, he goes to like their, you know, like tombstones or whatever, and he's gonna leave like a food offering. And when he does, this cat shows up. And the cat starts trying to eat the food. So he takes it home and he's going to use it as inspiration for like his newest story. And from there, it's just like a really nice story where we get both the guy's perspective and the little cat's perspective. Like we actually see stuff from her point of view, and like, you know, we hear her talk and stuff and narrate the story. And basically it's about the two of them and how they just become attached to each other and how they open up to each other. Like this guy who's usually so introverted and he has nothing in his life besides himself and his writing, we see how he opens up to the cat, and how because he opens up to the cat, you know, he opens up to people around him. Like he meets the girl at the local, you know, pet store, and he becomes friends with her. And his publisher, you know, who always, you know, usually just talks to him over the phone about his books, the publisher starts visiting him at his house because, you know, the publisher loves cats. And so he forms like a friendship with the publisher and, you know, that sort of thing. He starts opening up to people around him. And likewise, the cat who had always been like a stray, we see how she opens up to like the human and how she, I don't know, she has like a purpose in life. So I don't know, they just form like this close relationship, like a family. He opens up to the cat, opens up to people around him in his life, makes friends, and the cat learns to have like a purpose and have a home and stuff. So I don't know, it's kind of a weird one to explain. Well, it is very like slice of lifey, and it is more, I don't know, it's more of like a drama. I still think it's really good. I still think it's really cute. So likewise, definitely recommend it. I think it's really good. Another anime that just ended, and it just ended yesterday because it comes out like on Thursdays, the Quintessential Quintuplets. Basically, for anyone who needs like a refresher, Quintessential Quintuplets, at first it seems like it's going to be your standard harem because it's about this guy, and you know, there's like 5 different girls in his life, each of which it looks like he can have like a, you know, romantic connection with. But what makes it stand out is that it has like a really interesting premise where we're basically told that he does marry one of the girls. So basically we get like this, we get this scene where we see that he's remembering, you know, how he met his wife. And so everything we're seeing is basically like a flashback. And we see how, you know, when he was younger, he was like an A+ student, but he was like really poor and he was like really introverted. And, you know, he just focused on studying all the time. But then, you know, this wealthy family asks him to tutor their daughters. And when he gets to their house, he realizes that it's quintuplets. And from there, you know, we see how each girl has a different personality and how they all suck at studying, that sort of thing. And I don't know. What makes it stand out from other harem anime is that it doesn't have all the over-the-top like fan service or any of like the usual tropes and stuff. Instead, it's this like really good story about this guy, you know, trying to tutor these girls. And as he's, you know, tutoring them and getting involved in their lives and he gets to know them, they all kind of start falling in love with him. And so I don't know, it's just really interesting because we know he's going to pick one of them. And so over the course of the story, it's basically us getting to know the girls at the same time he does. And, you know, it's kind of about who does he have like the biggest connection with. And I liked it. You know, like I wouldn't say it's like the strongest anime this season, but I still really enjoyed every episode and I'd recommend it, you know? I think it's pretty good. Finally, the last anime that I want to talk about that just came to an end is The Promised Neverland. And for me, and from what I've seen a lot of people, The Promised Neverland is like the anime of the season. All right. It's just so good. And I don't know, it's just so hard to talk about it without going into detail because there's just like so much going on and I just want to like spill my guts about it, but I don't want to ruin it for people who haven't seen it yet. But basically The Promised Neverland's really good. You know, give a bit of a recap. There's this orphanage and it has kids, you know, from babies all the way to kids that are like 12 years old. And our protagonists are Emma, the girl with orange hair, Norman, the boy with white hair, and Ray, who's this like little kind of like emo kind of kid with black hair. And basically they live in this orphanage with their all, they're like adopted siblings. And these three are like the top of their class. Everyone sees them as leaders and they're the smartest and the most athletic, that sort of thing. And their lives seem to be going perfect. They live with their siblings and their, mom, so to speak. And all of that changes when a little girl named Connie gets adopted. And when the mom takes her to like the gate so she can go meet like her family or whatever, Emma and Norman notice that she left behind her stuffed bunny. And they're like, oh man, we got to get this bunny to Connie or she's going to miss it forever, blah, blah, blah. Let's run to the gate and see if they're still there so we can give her bunny. And so Norman and Emma run off. They go to the gate. And when they get there, this is the part where it gets kind of hard to not talk about it. But when they get there, to make a long story short, they see something horrific that makes them realize that their whole life is a lie. It makes them realize that their mom isn't really a loving mother. I mean, she's in on it. And it makes them realize that their lives are in danger. And so, they run back to the house. They're super freaked out. They're not sure what to do. And the mom does see that someone left behind the stuffed bunny. So she has her suspicions that someone was there. And yeah, from there, it just becomes this crazy, like prison break style story with these kids trying to come to terms with their whole life being a lie, and they know they have to escape. And so they're trying to like come up with a plan of how they can escape. They're trying to get other kids in on it. But at the same time, they have to scheme around the mom who has her suspicions about everything. And like, I don't know how to describe it, like I said, without really going into detail, but it's just this incredible story. And I don't know. I mean, it's just like cat and mouse between them and the mom. And then later, like this other, what can you call her? They call her like Sister Crone. And she's like an assistant to the mom. So like that throws a wrench in their plans because there's like another adult present that knows what's happening. And yeah, it's just this whole story with them trying to come up with a plan, but they're in danger and they have to play it off. And you have to watch it. It's incredible. But yeah, without going into much into detail, all I can say is that, this is the anime of the season. I just think it's really creative. I think it's awesome. I mean, even though I've seen stuff similar to this, I mean, there's always, like prison break type stories, or there's, our life is a lie and we need to run away stories. This still handles it in a really creative, really unique way. And I just loved every second of it. Like every episode was golden. I mean, there's emotional moments. There's some funny moments. There's moments where like the kids are plotting stuff that just leaves you amazed. I mean, there's moments that are like kind of screwed up, honestly, and just like leave you at the edge of your seat or leave you uncomfortable. Like this series was great. Honestly, I can't think of any downsides to it. The only thing maybe is I know some people aren't fans of how some of the kids act, I guess, at some points. But honestly, I don't even see that as much of a complaint, because even when the kids are acting in a way that, is kind of like, oh my God, they're being so stupid. Like it makes sense because they're kids. Of course, kids would react that way, But besides that, I think the show is awesome. Like I give it like a 10 out of 10. I think it's great. And I think it's like the anime to watch. Out of the 4 anime I've mentioned, I mean, I recommend all of them. I think they're all worth watching. But if you can only watch one out of these 4, I say watch The Promised Neverland. It's one of those things where you always hear people complain that, anime, these days isn't very good. There's nothing special, blah, blah, blah. Well, I think this proves that anime still has some life in it, because I thought it was really good, really enjoyable, and I recommend it, And, I'm going to stop talking about it because I don't want to spoil anything, but definitely go watch it. It's great. Alrighty, and that's it for this week, because there are other anime that are ending, like for sure, but I know Mob Psycho ends early next week, Kaguya-sama ends this weekend, and Boogie Pop, I'm actually not too sure. I have to go and recheck, but I believe it's 18 episodes, and I think episode 18 also comes out next week. I'm actually not too sure, but for sure, I'll try to finish those 3 series so I can talk about them next week, but hopefully you guys enjoyed that, hopefully that gave some insight into some of the anime this season. So, moving on, when it comes to movies, didn't watch anything new, unfortunately. Same thing for TV shows. Didn't watch any new TV shows. Honestly, it's been quite a while since I watched anything, so hopefully something, catches my attention soon. But yeah, no new TV shows, no new movies this week. When it comes to video games, though, I did play something, but unfortunately, it's something that just thinking about it, disappoints me. Basically what I'm talking about is I've talked about it a few times on the podcast, but I like Final Fantasy 15. And, I've talked about in the past that there was supposed to be like some more DLC, but then it got canceled, blah, blah, blah. And I've lamented the fact that, it sucks that the game's never going to be like completed the way the director wanted or whatever. But, it's whatever, at least what we have is pretty good, I guess. All of that changed though when I played Final Fantasy 15 episode Ardyn. Okay? For anyone who doesn't know, Ardyn in Final Fantasy 15, he's the villain. And basically, as you're playing through the game, your main character, his name is Noctis. He's the crown prince of the, what's the name of the city? Insomnia? Yeah, Insomnia. He's the crown prince of Insomnia. Basically, it's this whole quest with him and the rest of his boy band to, awaken the powers he needs to defeat the evil that is Ardyn. Because as far as Ardyn is this like usurper king, and I don't know, like there's this great moment where, before the final battle, minor spoilers, but Ardyn is like sitting on the throne and Noctis approaches him and he even tells him like this like awesome line where he's like, like off my chair, jester, the king sits there. And when you get to that line, it just feels like the ultimate burn against this faker, and you feel like Noctis has earned the right to call himself a king because, as you've played as him, you've seen all the sacrifice and everything he's gone through, right? And so that's why I said, despite all its flaws, I feel like the game is really good, and I feel like that end is pretty satisfying, With episode Ardyn, though, what they did, how can I describe it? They make him too sympathetic as a villain, all right? Usually, if you can make a villain sympathetic, it's a good thing. Because instead of looking like a one-dimensional cardboard cutout, you can kind of side with the villain, even if he's wrong. At least you can kind of see where he's coming from, that sort of thing. But this episode ruins everything. Because I don't want to ruin it. I still don't want to ruin it for people. I know people have different experiences with stuff. Maybe some of you will enjoy it. But basically the reason I didn't enjoy it is that you get to play, as the villain, you get to see why he's the way that he is, and basically the answer that they give us is that the reason he is the way he is because not one single character in this series has any agency. Okay? Like, you've played through it the first time, without this episode, and okay, there's a good guy, there's a bad guy, they each have their motivations, they're, doing stuff because they're choosing to, that sort of thing. But when you play this episode, you realize that no one has agency. Both the protagonist and the villain are basically these tragic figures that got screwed over every step along the way, and everything that happens is because it was fate that this was supposed to happen. Like, I know it sounds kind of vague, but trust me, like this episode, like the ending just ruins everything. Like it makes it seem like nothing matters because someone else was pulling the strings. And it just makes it so terrible. And like I said, it makes the villain too sympathetic because even though he does some bad stuff, when you realize like everything that's happened to him, you can't even be mad at him because he literally got screwed every step of the way. And like, anyone would do what he did, So you can't even look at him as a villain because he's basically more of like a tragic hero, if anything. And I don't know, it's hard to describe without going into too much detail and spoiling it. But I don't know, for me, this last episode Ardyn, basically ruins the whole story of the game. Like it takes a crap on everything, like I said, and it just like retroactively ruins everything. It makes it seem so like nothing that anybody did matters. I don't know, I'm just so disappointed, and it sucks because even though Final Fantasy 15 isn't a great game, I would still defend it because there's some good ideas there, and there's some good moments there, that sort of thing. And now it's ruined. And like, I just don't know what to say. Like, it's just so disappointing. And it's so disappointing because, let's just say that, okay, this episode did a thing that kind of ruined everything, but like, that's why there's still some more DLC coming. And that DLC will hopefully, fix the issues here. But unfortunately, the other DLC got canceled, which means that the game can never be fixed. And so I don't know, man. It's just like, I don't think I've ever seen a game just get ruined that badly. Like, it just really sucks. And it's just super disappointing. And honestly, I would say that for anyone, like, if you enjoyed Final Fantasy 15, don't play Episode Ardyn. Like, trust me, even though, like, the gameplay is, you know, it's pretty cool, and getting to play as Ardyn, like, the majority of, like, the bulk of the game, play as him, you're running around the city of Insomnia, and you're, like, just destroying everything, and killing all sorts of, like, enemies and stuff. Like, even though that was, like, really fun, and I really enjoyed that part of the DLC, like, the story bits and, like, the conclusion it gives you, like, to the series, it's terrible. So I would say skip it. I would say save yourself those, I think it was like $10. Save yourself those $10. Don't play it. Just don't touch this. Like, it ruins it. But yeah, before I get more depressed, let's move on. Luckily, this next news story, you know, our first news story, which is why I put it first, it uplifted my spirits. And honestly, this news story makes me feel like the world is good again. I am, of course, talking about the fact that Shantae 5 has been announced for all systems and is due out sometime this year. So yeah, guys, for anyone who has ever spent, you know, any time on my channel, whether it was listening to like the first end credit song I put on my first podcast episode, or if you go look at my channel and look at the first review I ever did, I love the Shantae series. For me, it's one of my favorites. Shantae is probably one of my favorite video game characters ever. You know, like, I've advocated for her to be in Smash Bros. A lot. I think her games are awesome. I love the character, love the series. And so yeah, there is a 5th game coming sometime this year. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of detail. The details we do have is that, like I said, it's Shantae 5, so it's not like any like remaster or anything. And it's been announced for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, PC, and Apple devices. And, you know, if you look at the article, it's pretty cool. We get, you know, Shantae, you know, the title, we get Shantae, the character, and her hair makes the 5, which is like a really cool detail. And that's basically it, you know, unfortunately. We don't have any details of like when it's coming out or how the game will play or anything. As a lot of people have said, hopefully the game is more in the style of the Pirate's Curse, which is like more Metroidvania than Half Genie Hero. Because even though I like all of the games, I do think Half Genie Hero was like a little too like linear, and I didn't really like how it had like all these separate stages instead of like one big world. But, you know, all the same, I think they could do whatever they want. I'd probably still enjoy it. I really love the series. And yeah, I'm excited. So if you love the Shantae series as much as I do, keep an eye out for that and look forward to it. Moving on, you might have noticed that I said Shantae 5 was coming to Apple devices. And that's because, you know, not only did we just get the Google Stadia news not too long ago, where it's going to be this like streaming video game service that, you know, a lot of people still aren't really sure how it's going to work. But apparently, Apple is also getting into the gaming business. Earlier this week, they announced Apple Arcade. And basically, you know, the way it's explained, Apple Arcade is going to be a game subscription service where I guess it's kind of going to be like the Netflix of gaming, I guess, where basically you pay some sort of like a subscription amount and then you get to play all sorts of like games on your Apple devices. I mean, I don't know. I think it sounds weird, but it could be interesting, you know, depending on the price. As a lot of people have pointed out, it's not just mobile games either. Like, if you look at the list of games they mention, I mean, like, there's Sonic Racing, there's, you know, PC games like Hot Lava, you know, the one where you're jumping from, like, platform to platform. There's like, some sort of, like, a Lego game coming to it. They said there's all sorts of developers they're working with to, like, get all sorts of, like, new games and stuff. So, I don't know, it could be interesting. Personally, doesn't appeal to me. I don't feel really interested, you know, since I don't have any Apple devices and I'd rather just buy the games. But who knows? You know, it remains to be seen. Maybe for some people this really will be worth it and maybe it'll be the next big thing. So there you go, you know? We live in some interesting times where all sorts of companies are trying to like get their piece of the gaming pie. I don't know. We'll see what that leads to, I guess. For now, let's move on. Moving on, this next news story shouldn't be a surprise, but I mean, I guess it's still kind of surprising nonetheless, in a way. Basically what I'm talking about is that the Wall Street Journal reports that Nintendo is getting ready to release 2 new Switch models as early as summer. Now, I mean, like I said, it shouldn't be too much of a surprise because this seems to happen with like every system. You know, like Nintendo has had dozens of DSs and 3DSs that are like upgrades. The PlayStation has had, you know, like the PlayStation 4, then the PlayStation 4 Pro, and Xbox at this point, I've lost track, but you know, they have like a bunch of like updated versions of like the same console. So, you know, it makes sense that Nintendo would do this. According to the report, they're trying to release 2 versions. One is meant to be a enhanced version that's supposed to be targeted at avid gamers, and I think that's the one that's supposed to be like a little more expensive than the regular Switch. And the other one is a cheaper version that's supposed to be for more casual gamers, and it's supposed to be the successor to the 3DS. So, you know, unfortunately, we don't have too much info. I mean, it would be really interesting to know like the price points and what do they mean by having more features or less features, that sort of thing. But I don't know, interesting stuff, you know? I wish we had more information, but fortunately we don't. What's good though is that if it says here that they're planning to release them as early as summer, what a lot of people are suspecting is that they'll probably talk about them at E3 in June. And then, you know, maybe they'll release some like right after. So I don't know. That'd be kind of cool, right? But for now, not too much information, but I'm definitely excited. I want to know what's next. And I don't know. There you go. Just keep an eye out for it, I guess. Finally, the last news story I have is another one that I'm really excited for. Honestly, I swear that like all these news stories sound like they've been aimed directly at me. I mean, except for the Apple one, I guess. But I mean, Shantae I'm excited for. A new version of the Switch I'm excited for. And this one I'm definitely excited for. Basically, Persona 5 The Royal has been announced for PS4. Now, the bad thing is we don't have too much information. All we got at the moment was like a little like teaser trailer sort of thing. And we're supposed to get more information on April 24th. But yeah, basically, Persona 5 The Royal. It's this trailer where it shows like this girl talking. People are hoping that she's like a new main character, but you know, it's not too sure yet. And basically she's talking to one of the characters from the game, and he asks her like, what do you think of the Phantom Thieves, which is like the main crew, you know, you play as. And basically she says like, I've heard of them, but I don't think like what they're doing is right. Like, I don't agree. And that's basically it. And then we get like a look at her. And I don't know. I don't really know what to think. Back during Persona 3, you know, the original release, you got to play as like a male character with blue hair. Then for the PSP re-release, they added a female character with like her own personality and like different choices, that sort of thing. I guess people are hoping for that here, but I don't know, because the fact that she seems opposed to the main crew makes it seem kind of weird for her to be a main character, you know? But I mean, who knows? Maybe it's like a fake out or whatever. But yeah, it's really interesting. The only thing that sucks is that there's not a lot of information, and we have to wait like another month for them to give more info about anything. I don't know why they just didn't do it now, but I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping that, you know, Persona 5 The Royal will be, you know, like a re-release with like more content, that sort of thing. I'd buy it, you know. I love the Persona games, love Persona 5, wouldn't mind diving back in with new content stuff. That makes me excited. But yeah, unfortunately, we don't have too much info, but I'm excited. And hopefully, you know, if any of you are Persona fans, hopefully you're excited too. So there you go. Moving on to movie news, the first one is that apparently a comic book called The Mouse Guard is getting a movie adaptation, and Idris Elba has been cast in a role within the movie. Don't know too much about it. From what I looked up, The Mouse Guard seems to be like a little comic book about like medieval times, and there's all these like mice that are like knights and stuff, which seems kind of cool. Basically what I can like kind of describe it as, if anyone remembers on the channel, I did a review of a little VR game called Moss. And in Moss, you play as like this little mouse called Quill, who runs around with a sword, and like, you know, she's fighting stuff, and she's trying to protect like her kingdom and rescue her uncle, that sort of thing. Honestly, this really reminds me of that, but I don't know, it seems interesting, seems cool. Hopefully, you know, it's a good movie. Definitely, if you look, they are casting some pretty big name actors. We got Idris Elba doing a voice. We got Andy Serkis doing a voice. We have, I can't remember her name at the moment, but I saw like a different article that also got released where one of the girls that came on Crazy Rich Asians, she's lending a voice. So I don't know. I mean, it seems pretty interesting. From what I see, looks like some people are excited for this. It seems like there are some pretty big fans of the little comic book. So seems interesting. You know, I wouldn't mind checking it out. So there you go. Hopefully you guys check it out too. The other news story that I have is that apparently Kevin Smith has just announced that Jay and Silent Bob, like the reboot, has wrapped filming. Now, I don't know how many of you have any love for, you know, Jay and Silent Bob or any of like the Kevin Smith movies, but for like a while he had been saying that he wanted to do a Jay and Silent Bob reboot. And I guess at some point, all this talk of doing the reboot, I mean, I guess he really got to it. And yeah, I mean, it says that he just wrapped filming. And I've seen the movies before. I think they're, you know, they're fine. I'm not like the biggest fan, but I think Kevin Smith's movies, you know, they have a certain charm to them. You know, they're definitely, he has like a unique sense of humor. And yeah, I mean, if you read the article, it's some pretty interesting stuff. You know, if you watch it, there's a part where Captain Marvel has like a shout out to Kevin Smith's movie Mallrats. So he's going to have like a little Captain Marvel shout out, which I mean, I guess that's kind of cool. You know, he's returning the favor, but there you go. You know, depending on how excited you are for Jay and Silent Bob or, you know, like Kevin Smith in general. I mean, maybe you're excited for this. Maybe you could care less, but I think it's cool. You know, I think it's cool that, you know, like I said, he has his unique style of doing stuff, has his unique sense of comedy, and I don't know. It seems like everyone's having fun with the project. So there you go. Moving on to anime news, which takes up a big bulk of this podcast, honestly. The first news story I wanted to talk about is that apparently Neon Genesis Evangelion makes its Netflix debut on June 21st. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but I want to say that I did talk about this, you know, in an earlier podcast episode. I do want to say that I had mentioned that Netflix had said that Evangelion was coming to like its streaming service. You know, regardless of if I did or I didn't, the point is we have a release date now. And yeah, so it's coming on June 21st. It says here that the movies are coming out the same day. And yeah, what else is there to say? I mean, if you've seen Evangelion before and you've been like itching to watch it since then, I mean, it's not very easily available. So having somewhere to watch it again is like really cool. And if you haven't watched Evangelion, how do you even begin to describe that series? You know, like I definitely recommend watching it. I think it is a very interesting, you know, piece of work, but it is kind of unlike anything you've ever seen. All right. Like this is an anime that back in the day, it saved the anime industry because what it does is just so different from like anything at the time. Like if you've ever heard of a show that deconstructs a genre, this is like one of the first anime to, you know, deconstruct the usual tropes and stuff. Like, I don't know, basically like the easiest way to describe Evangelion, you go in expecting it to be like any other big mecha anime where there's these kids and they pilot mechas and they're there to save the world, you know, and it's all good times because they're heroes, but it's not. Basically, it turns everything on its head and it says, you know, like, no, what if we play it straight and show that these are kids with kid mentalities that can't handle the weight on their shoulders, you know? Like basically they're child soldiers dealing with like trauma and oh my god, it's a crazy series. I don't even want to get too much into it, but I think it's worth a watch because it just does some crazy stuff no one had seen up to then. And I mean, I know like the creator, he was apparently going to like depression and he was dealing with all sorts of stuff when he made the series. So that kind of reflects in the series. Like, I don't know. It's the kind of show that's really good. It's really unique, but trust me, it is a mind trip. But that's basically all I'm gonna say about it. I don't want to get too much into it and, you know, maybe make people shy away from it. But if you have a chance to watch Evangelion when it hits Netflix on June 21st, check it out. You know, I promise that at the very least, you're going to watch something unique. You know, it's something that will stick with you because it's just so crazy, right? On the flip side, this next anime news story is like a more lighthearted one, or at least it's more lighthearted because of how silly the premise is. But as the, article title states, No Guns Life TV anime puts a promo and visual in the chamber. And if you're interested, and if you click right on it, the first image you'll see is a gun in a trench coat. And I don't know about you, but I think that is so ridiculous. I love it. And yeah, apparently this anime is all about a man who has a gun for a head, and he runs around as a detective fighting crime. I mean, there's a reason his head's a gun. As explained, basically, it's because there was like this phenomenon that turns some people into weapons for some reason. So, I mean, he's not just a gun for the hell of it. But I don't know, it sounds interesting, sounds unique, and it sounds the perfect amount of ridiculous. You have a detective running around, and his head's a gun. I love it. I don't know about you guys. For me, that sells the show to me. I think that's great, but I don't know, At least, if it makes you feel better. Someone in the comments says, based on the manga, I'd recommend this anime. Can't wait to see it. So if anything, at least it's not just like a one-off gag or anything. It seems like there is a story, and it is actually like a good series. But there you go. If you ever thought you'd see an anime where a man with a gun for a head is running around, I mean, you have it now. So there you go. Finally, I'll kind of speed through these next three because, basically they're just announcements, but basically there's quite a few anime that have been, like a second season has been confirmed. So the first one is ReZero Starting Life in Another World. So I'm excited to see a second season of that. I think that's great. Likewise, I thought that Cells at Work was really cool and was really cute, and that's been announced for a second season. And finally, the last show that got announced for a second season, and this one has been a long time coming, is DanMachi, also known as Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? Yeah, that's getting a second season finally. For this one, we do have a premiere date. It says it's coming out July 2019, so there you go. All right, and with that being said, that's it for the news this week. As I said, a big majority of it was just a lot of like anime news and quite a few, video game stories that seemed like they were aimed towards me, personally. But that aside, hopefully, that was something that you guys liked, whether it was informative, educational, entertaining, that sort of thing. Hopefully there was some sort of news story you guys enjoyed. And with that being said, let's move over to the content creator spotlight. And the content creator for this week, I'm going to shake things up again. Basically, instead of a YouTuber, I'm going to talk about an artist. And the content creator for this week is an artist that I first found on Tumblr, but I now follow on Twitter, and I think they make great art. In fact, they have commissions open. I'm thinking of, maybe asking for a commission, maybe some channel art, because I think they have some really fun stuff. And of course, the person I'm talking about, EmmaEkisde. I don't know how you're supposed to say that. EmmaEkisde, something like that. But anyway, this artist, not sure if they're male or female, doesn't really matter, I guess. But yeah, they have some really cool art. They have a really unique style that's kind of hard to, explain. But I really like their art. I think it's really fun. They do all sorts of fan art. They did a picture of Bowsette. They did a picture from Adventure Time. They did a picture of Zero Suit Samus and Little Mac. This artist made one of my favorite pieces of artwork that has to do with Smash, where basically it's Isabelle standing on top of a bloody Peach who looks like, she got punched, and she's grabbing Zero Suit Samus's hair, and she has her fist pulled back, and she's about to punch her too. I don't know why I find that hilarious. Something about little timid Isabelle beating the crap out of both Peach and Samus is hilarious to me. Love that picture. And so yeah, I'm gonna link their Twitter in the description below, and I would say check out their art. They have all sorts of really good art. They have a really unique style of making it, and I don't know, I just really love this artist. When I decided that I was gonna get rid of my Tumblr, one of the things I said is okay, I need to find that person, and I really hope they have some sort of a other social media I can follow them on, because I love their art. I just think it's really good. So even though I don't know their name, like I said, it's something like EmmaEkisde, EmmaEkisde or something like that. I would say check them out, guys. Their art is great. And as I said, they do commissions that seem to be open. So if you guys are interested in getting some art done for, honestly, I would say a very affordable price, I'd say check them out. You know, it seems like they have commissions that are open and they can make some art for you. But yeah, love this artist. I think they're great. I would say check them out. And as always, you know, show them some love, that sort of thing. Yeah. And with that being said, that brings us to the end of another podcast. That is one more in the bag. As you know, always, I hope that the podcast was enjoyable. You know, hopefully you guys got something out of it, whether it was, you know, insight into one of the anime from this season or, you know, one of the video games coming up, you know, that sort of thing. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the podcast. If you did, please leave a comment in the comment section below. I love, you know, interacting with the community, that sort of thing. And as for where you can, you know, catch me, you know, as we begin to wrap up, my name is Wannabe Reviewer. You can catch me hosting the Wannabe podcast every week. It's on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, all that good stuff. Besides that, you guys can follow me over on Twitter at wannabe_review. I give updates to the channel. I retweet all sorts of video game news. I follow all sorts of like voice actors and stuff. So I'm always, you know, retweeting all sorts of stuff from them. So if you guys are interested, you can follow me there. And finally, the last place you guys can find me is over on YouTube. I have a channel called Wannabe Reviewer where I do reviews on all sorts of content, you know, anime, manga, movies, video games, TV shows, that sort of thing. So if you guys check me out on YouTube, I do reviews usually every Wednesday. So, you know, check me out there if you're interested. And yeah, with that being said, I think that's really all I have to say. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. My name is Wannabe Reviewer, and I'll catch you guys next time.